would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Sarah Collett. I own a business called SBC Websites and Marketing. We're based in Skipton, which is in North Yorkshire. And predominantly, I work with very small businesses up to small to medium-sized businesses on their website design, website management, and then also marketing strategy, marketing development. And I also deliver some of the marketing for those clients as well.
Brilliant. So I'll get on with the questions. What made you want to start a marketing and web design company?
So I worked in IT support in a marketing role for about 8 years, and I've moved up to director of marketing level. But the work wasn't massively fulfilling. It wasn't that exciting. And teamed with that, I'm also a bit of a shopaholic. So I shop and use lots and lots of local businesses, fairly small, fairly independent businesses. And just through talking to the business owners, I realized that there wasn't actually access to affordable marketing for small businesses that they could understand. They weren't bamboozled with a load of jargon, and that would actually be useful for the businesses. So rather than trend driven or jumping on something because they had to do it, it was actually the marketing that they needed was going to actually be useful for them. So I left my role as IT in IT support and set up SBC. So that was about 6 years ago now. So yeah, it was really a passion to help smaller businesses with their marketing, to make it affordable, accessible within the resources they had. So not just from a cost point of view, but from a time point of view as well, because a lot of the businesses I work with do their own marketing after I've given them some help. So they need to be able to manage that within the time that they've got.
Yeah. How do you tailor your services to clients?
So for me, every client is not so much a client, but they're a person. So I always meet them face to face if possible. So I have a couple of remote clients just who have come to me through kind of word of mouth, but the majority of my clients are in a 20-mile radius of Skipton. So we always meet face to face. We have a cup of coffee or we have a glass of wine and we go over everything that they need. So basically, when I build a kind of a proposal or a quote for them, it's completely tailored. So I don't have like set packages that I offer. Everything is, I think you need this, and I think this other client will need these services. So it's definitely tailored in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that makes it easier as well. Like you said, obviously they have to keep up with what you've set out for them.
Yeah.
So I suppose that makes it easier rather than just being given a whole lot of stuff and not knowing what to do with it.
Definitely. So a lot of the services I offer include a training element. So if I, for example, develop a social media strategy for a client and they're going to have to deliver it themselves, it's not that I just write the strategy and give it to them. Well, I'll also go in, sit with them on the phone, on the laptop, make sure they're comfortable with things like Facebook Business Suite, taking videos, adding sound onto videos. So they get training as well as just the written recommendations.
Yeah. Do you have teams working closer together on projects? And could you disclose a successful case study?
So I thought hard about this question. I don't have a team, so it's just me actually. I deliver all of the marketing and website design myself. But what I do have is a really good network. So I am a part of a couple of networking groups in Skipton and Ilkley. And they're not kind of referral based networking, but we're all freelancers or we all own our own businesses. And they're people like photographers, graphic designers, venue owners. So if there's a campaign that needs teamwork, I have a handful of photographers I can use. I know venues we can go to. There's designers that are on hand that can help out with things. So although SBC doesn't have an in-house team, I know a lot of people locally who help on projects.
I suppose that makes it a lot easier as well, like knowing people and like a bigger network as well as like an in-house team.
Definitely. And they're a trusted network. So if they recommend someone, I'm 99% sure that the person they recommend will do a good job.
Yeah, it does. That makes it 100% easier because not many people you can trust about.
Definitely.
How do clients see results?
So results are totally campaign based. So it depends on what the campaign I'm doing is. So if it's a website development project, obviously the result is they have a website that's developed for them. But what I like to do is also give them some information on how a website is successful. So, for example, you don't just want to launch a website and then that's it, and it doesn't get looked at for the next 5 years and it just sits there. So for example, every website that I launch also gets added to all of Google's SEO tools. It gets listed on Google Business if the client hasn't done that already. It gets linked up to all their social media. And depending on the client, they'll either be able to update it themselves or I'll update it for them. So that's one of the kind of results side from the websites. If it's something like an email campaign or a social media campaign, they always get a report. So it depends on how often they ask for it. Some clients actually don't want a report. They kind of think, so long as I'm getting, some engagement on my post and people are contacting me, that's their success, which is great. Yeah. Other clients have written reports with kind of data and statistics. So it just depends on the client.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because I don't think I'd be able to understand all the statistics and stuff.
The software isn't easy. So Google Analytics, for example, has just changed. And lots of clients would have looked at that for kind of key data points, whereas most of my smaller clients, they're not going to do anything with that data. They don't even want to understand what it means. So for me, what I do is make it kind of English and give it to them in a reasonable way that they can understand, and it then directs some marketing for them rather than just thinking, oh, I don't know what this bounce rate is and time on screen means and things. It's actually understandable for them.
Yeah. What are your core values as a company?
So I have two core values. One is being jargon free. So I don't want to bamboozle people. I try to operate as simply as possible. So whether that's through explaining what the projects are that I'm doing or explaining why clients need certain campaigns and maybe don't need others. So it's jargon free. And then the second core value, affordability. So I am a small business owner and I hate when I think I'm being ripped off. And lots of other small businesses that I work with go to bigger agencies, for example, for web design, and are quoted thousands of pounds for a fairly simple website. Now, it's just me developing these websites. I don't have huge overheads, and the businesses that I work with don't have a lot of spare cash. So for me, being able to offer an affordable website, for example, to help them get online is really important.
No, yeah, I 100% agree with that, because I remember my dad ended up having, he's got his own company, his own business, and he wanted a web page, and he got quoted a ridiculous amount and ended up just leaving it completely. Yeah. It was like, do you know what? I don't need it. It was like, it's fine.
That's it.
So I 100% agree. How do you communicate with clients on progress and how often? Obviously, you said it's whenever they contact you, but
yeah, so communication is actually something that I try to work on every day. I have really good phases where I communicate all the time, and then I go through phases where the work itself is so busy that the communication really lacks. So all my clients, thankfully, are very understanding, and we all go through the kind of the same phases, but it is something I do still work on. So the majority of communication is email, or it's WhatsApp, or we'll have telephone calls. For different projects, there's different touch points. So for example, for a web design job, you start it and there's a brief, there's design and feedback on design, there's the development process, there's testing, and then it's launch and support afterwards. So during that kind of process, there's touch points that we would always have. And normally that's a mix of video calls or it's face-to-face meetings. For clients that are on retainer, so for example, I've got a couple of clients who I work with monthly. We have kind of a goal in mind, and we'll have normally monthly or every couple of months we'll have a face-to-face catch-up, but progress otherwise is mainly just email or WhatsApp.
Yeah, see, I prefer WhatsApp when I'm the same as you. I lack communication so much. I can't do it.
I think it's because we're bombarded. So at one point I was getting WhatsApp, text, telephone calls, emails, Facebook Messenger, and you just think you can't you can't take all of it in, so you take one
No.
of it in. So instead, I've this beginning of this year actually. So I said Facebook Messenger wasn't somewhere I'd take kind of communication from. So obviously phone call and text. WhatsApp if it's things like image sharing and video sharing, or email.
Yeah.
So it's trying to cut down on, I think, those touch points that you can have.
Yeah. What differentiates you from the competition?
I think for me, so coming from quite a corporate background and being at quite a high level meant that I had an overview of lots of different aspects of business. So I've never just been in a marketing role. I've always had relationships with other departments within businesses, so sales, operations, HR. So when I'm speaking to my clients, although they're predominantly coming to me for marketing help, often our catch-ups and our face-to-face meetings will devolve into kind of more operational meetings. So they'll ask me for things like help with like new product launches, or going into different markets, or help with pricing, for example. So even though lots of people don't think of that as marketing, because it's all to do with how the customers are reacting to them and might buy more or might react to changes, it often does kind of fall under the conversations that we have. So I think a lot of clients, I would hope, see me as a wider area of advice just than marketing.
Yeah, I suppose I mean, it's always good to have a big overview on like a job role rather
Yeah,
than just the one aspect.
yeah,
Because that's what I'm looking at doing rather than just journalism. I want to like broaden the field and get into it all, so it makes it a whole lot easier.
yeah, definitely. And I think, for example, if I'm doing a web development project, if you're just a web designer or developer, you might have these kind of thoughts in place. So this is the payment process they should use. This is the like e-commerce platform. And then it turns out that it's not compatible with the business that they're running currently. So they have to make changes, or things don't run smoothly. Whereas a recent client, for example, we really looked at the things they do in their store. So they had a physical store and used one payment provider, and they were using a different payment provider on their current website. Well, to me, it makes sense to use the same throughout, because then you have one stock level and stock checking system. So it's really looking at like how things can be as easy as possible and as efficient as possible.
Yeah, that makes 100% like sense completely. That's the end of the questions. I'd just like to say
Okay.
thank you so much
No,
for
thank you
your
very much.
time.
No, thank you. That's great.